What's the quickest way to become a millionaire? Start out a billionaire and then get into the film industry.
You're listening to The Other 50%, or Her Story of Hollywood. This is the podcast where we talk to women who have reached a high level of success in entertainment and listen to their story. How did they get there? What is it like now that they are there? What are their struggles? What are their triumphs? Today I talked to Andie Rice. She's the Vice President of Production Finance for Viacom Networks. She has several different networks underneath her, and she oversees the production finance aspects of all of them. Now, Andie happens to be a hilarious person, so this interview was really fun. And I was struck by her very practical Midwestern work ethic. I'm not going to explain it any more than that. You'll hear it. Anyway, have a listen.
They named me Andrea, and I grew up in Wisconsin, where everybody says Andrea. So if you introduce yourself as Andrea in Wisconsin, you get made fun of. So I switched it to Andie really early on, and it's stuck. I've been Andie ever since.
That is hilarious.
Yeah.
What is your job?
Vice President of Production Finance for Viacom Media Networks.
That is a very fancy title.
Super fancy.
How did you get that job? What was your path?
So I started out as a production assistant in Los Angeles many years ago. I'm not going to say how many years ago. I had worked...
It looks like about 7.
Yeah, that's right. That's about right. I had worked at a cable television station in a work-study program when I was in college, and I decided that I wanted to work in television.
Where were you in college?
Wisconsin-Madison.
Oh.
And I didn't have any money to get out to LA. I knew I needed to get out to LA, so I took a job on a cruise ship that was going to go past LA, and I had the goal of just getting off the cruise ship when we got to LA. It didn't work out 100% like that, but yeah.
You took a job on the cruise ship to get passage to LA.
Yes.
Were you going to quit when you got to LA? And be like,
yeah.
Send my check to my P.O. box.
That was basically my plan, yeah. But I didn't. I mean, that was the idea I had in my head, but then when you actually have the job and you realize, oh, that's not cool, I made a year commitment. I'm working with other people. I probably shouldn't. Also, we didn't stop in LA. So that was maybe another small flaw in the plan.
What was your job on the cruise ship?
Waitressing.
That is so awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so how did you get to LA?
So I ended up just coming out sort of the old-fashioned way. I drove out here, moved here, when I was done with the cruise ship. And it was back in the days where, Hollywood Reporter and Variety would be, on newsstands, and I would buy a hard copy and circle jobs for production assistants and mail a letter, I think, to get,
Back when it took a week to hire someone?
Yeah, and my first job I got because it was a small independent film, and they had fired so many people that they had kind of run out of people they knew to hire, so they had to go to this whatever.
Fresh off the bus.
Exactly. So they brought me in, and I lasted the rest of the movie, and I think it's just because it was near the end. So I don't even remember the name of it. And if I did, I probably wouldn't tell
Star
you.
Wars?
No. Yeah, so I did a few things as a production assistant, and then I kind of fell into production accounting.
As one does.
I don't really know how to explain how that happens. But, you're a PA, and you see the different departments, and I remember the wardrobe people wanted to, you should come be a wardrobe PA. I was like, that would be the worst idea ever. I had no interest whatsoever.
That would be horrible.
I would have been terrible. I would have hated it. Locations I was kind of interested in. I wanted to be a producer at the time, but the production accountant was the first one to reach out with an actual assistant accountant job, beyond PA level. So I was like, great, yeah, I'll take that. It's a job. And then I just sort of stayed in production accounting for a long time.
It seems like if people aren't then here's my sweeping generalization. If you're not like specifically heading towards a craft, like the business-minded people
Right.
will end up in accounting or production.
Yeah, I think that very well may be true. Maybe locations sometimes, but you're probably not going into wardrobe or makeup or hair unless that's really
Or
an area of
camera.
interest for you, or camera.
Right.
Yeah.
So how did you then move into being a finance executive?
So I worked as a production accountant for many years, and I was starting to get a little bored with it. It is an interesting and fascinating job in a lot of ways, but I had done enough projects that I started to feel like anytime some new emergency or interesting thing came up, it was something I had already done before. And I was starting to get tired of reminding people to turn in their time cards so that they could get paid. And I could see that I might be getting a little like bored and grumpy with the job. So I started thinking, well, what is the next thing that I could do that would challenge me, that would be interesting? And right around that time, I did a few shows for Comedy Central, and they were growing at the time, but they were based out of New York, and they were doing more and more shows in LA, and they had realized, hey, we need a manager of production finance on the West Coast. And so because I had done a few shows for them as a production accountant, the hiring manager in New York knew me directly, and that's how I got the job.
So, hey, how about you do this?
Yeah, I mean, it was a conversation. It was sort of interesting because I didn't actually technically meet all the job requirements. They had to, for HR, rewrite the job to bring me in, but I was a good hire for them at the time, honest to God, and it was a very easy transition for me because having done it as a production accountant, having worked with Comedy Central, it's pretty easy to make that flip to the other side because you know what needs to happen. And I was the first person they'd hired in that department on the West Coast, so I basically was, establishing a lot of the policies and procedures, and I wrote the manual, and it was a good experience.
So you've been with Comedy Central, and this job became Viacom. Is it the same job that's grown and grown?
So it was Comedy Central, and then it became MTV Networks, and then MTV Networks became Viacom Media Networks, and sort of over time, I got more and more channels, and then occasionally a promotion to go with the additional channels. Yeah. It was sort of, I'm not going to say it was exactly like matched up all the time, but it basically got there. So it started out just Comedy Central, and then it was the entertainment group, which is like Comedy Central, Spike TV, TV Land at the time. That's how it was set up. And then eventually it was given MTV Network, or MTV as well. And then now, much more recently, I've got Kids and Family, which is Nickelodeon primarily, and BETN. So basically every channel at Viacom Media Networks.
So how many people report to you?
I have 5 direct reports right now, and then there's plenty of people.
All the production accountants under them.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a few more staff people that report into the 5 people that report into me, but then there's also a ton of production accountants.
So how long have you been there?
I've been there, I think 12, 13 years, almost 13 years.
So you were like the first one in there, and then were able to just...
Well, sort of. I was the first one in at Comedy Central. And one of the things that's nice for me with Comedy Central is because I was the first production finance person that I've grown with the channel, right? And this makes it sound less exciting, but the policies and procedures.
My manual.
My manual.
Lasted for 20 years.
Super exciting. The other channels each one has got their own identity and their own procedures and their own people and their own unique way of working. So it really has been pretty interesting, having these different channels come together into groups and then maybe change. TV Land, for example, was entertainment group and then moved over to Kids and Family. still in Viacom, but the people are different.
Now, this is just me asking just because I'm interested that our audience will care.
Yeah.
Are you like standardizing across all those networks, or are you like leaving them very unique?
Well, it's a great question. It's a great question because that is one of the things that I am supposed to be doing. One of the goals of having one person over all of production finance is to make it more standardized.
Just easier said than done.
It is easier said than done, and also I feel very strongly that while it is a worthy goal, it needs to be balanced because you need to take into consideration, for example, the different types of programming.
Yes.
Nickelodeon does animation. We have an animation studio. That is a very different type of production than live action scripted or reality series. So, the jobs are different, the people are different, the pace of production is different, the reporting is different. So while I was given the task standardize, I do view a portion of my job as being, okay, here's where it makes sense to standardize, and here's where we're going to need to accommodate the different needs of the different channels. Each channel is unique.
Educating the people who made the request.
Right. Yeah, I'm done now talking about that.
Right. Who cares about the accounting processes? Okay. What's the favorite thing about your job?
Favorite thing about my job? I actually really do like my job. I think my favorite thing about it is it is interesting. It does keep changing. There's a different challenge all the time. I do not feel like I'm stuck doing the same thing every day.
There's always a new puzzle.
There's always a new puzzle. Yeah. So I like that. I find it interesting. I mean, it can be stressful. I'm not going to lie. Sometimes the puzzle is difficult.
And it needs to be solved right this second.
And you're always behind on putting the puzzle together. By the time you need to put the puzzle together, it's because there's a problem. So you better get on it. But I actually really, the truth is I enjoy that. So.
Okay, what is your favorite showbiz story that you can tell me?
I'll tell you, this isn't that funny of a. I personally find this story hilarious. I cannot tell you the name of the person, but pretty high level talent.
Well, then that'll make it fun for us to try to figure out.
Yeah, that everyone would know. An amazing actor, and doing a project with one of the channels at Viacom, and wanted to have a meeting with our creative executive. So he, I don't know how he came up, Googled his name, I'm not sure, but rather than just calling the assistant, just at a meeting, he just on his own found out where, the office was for this creative executive and drove there, but went to the wrong lot. So instead of coming to the Viacom offices, he went to Paramount.
He was going to ambush the executive?
I don't think it was about that at all. I just think it was I guess if you've been an actor your whole life, you just have a different skill set than someone who's worked in business your whole life. So, if you or I wanted a meeting with somebody, we would just approach it differently.
It does come down to skill set. That's hilarious. Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah.
What was your worst day at work ever? The day that makes you think, why didn't I stay in Wisconsin and work in a beer factory? Because that sounds so attractive.
Nothing has ever made me think, why didn't I stay in Wisconsin and work in a beer factory? I don't know if you've ever been to a beer factory. It does not look like
I was Laverne and Shirley, so that's, it looked fun.
I could see it. I could see it. Or that thing where I Love Lucy, where they do the chocolates.
Same thing.
That's the best
the glove
thing in the
on
whole
the beer.
planet. Yeah. I've definitely had some bad days at work. I think the hardest things to deal with are difficult staffing issues or problems. I mean, if
people is always the hardest part.
They're the best part and the hardest part, and that's just the truth of it. So, if there's enough people that you're working with, eventually there's going to be a problem with one of them or a problem between two of them. And that is my least favorite thing.
Where do you see yourself in 5 or 10 years?
That's a good question. I enjoy my job. I like it. And I started thinking at some point, maybe about year 5 or 6 in, well, there's only so long I can stay here because, you don't want to be stuck at one company forever. You want to grow and learn new things and work different places. But honestly, so far, my job has kept changing enough that I feel like I kind of have worked at a variety of different companies, even though I haven't left.
You move buildings, you get to have a clean office.
Yeah, the whole moved offices many, many, many times.
That always felt to me like, oh, thank God, now I don't have to quit my job.
I can just right, exactly.
This will keep me another.
That's something about working in finance in a creative industry. When offices need to be moved, your finance department.
The first ones.
One of the early victims.
They won't care. Those bean counters.
We don't care where they sit.
If you were doing what you are doing, what would you be doing instead?
I might still be working in production. I really, out in the field. Not production accounting. I would have switched over to being a producer. I'm sure of that.
Do you think you still may do that?
Not in the foreseeable future. One of the reasons that I decided to take a corporate job is because it was around the time where I was thinking about getting married and having a kid, and how are you going to raise a child if you're working production hours, and if you don't know literally what city you're going to be working in a month from now. So that is one of the main reasons that I took a corporate job. I could see someday, I guess,
about
there's
8 years from
exactly. but I don't know, because then I'm a little older and I'm not sure I want to go back to production.
I think I'm a little tired.
Yeah,
it's really hard.
Yeah. So,
do you find that the split between men and women doing your job is it about even, or are there more women and more men?
Well, it's interesting because production accounting, while there are both men and women, it's primarily women. And then as you move...
And primarily single women.
Primarily single women, that's true. So, as you get more into production finance and you move up higher up the ladder, it does tend to become more men. There was a period of time when I was working my corporate job where the entire department, was men, and I was the only woman.
How was that?
You know what? It was actually fine. I was actually fine with it. I don't want to say I think that it's okay for the world to be like that, because I don't. There need to be more women, and there's clearly discrimination, and that's all very real.
If there's going to be one woman, I'm glad.
Well, there you go. That's kind of true. And my personal experience was fine. I don't really enjoy sports, so that's really the only drawback, because there are some men for whom that's really their comfort zone for chatting, Did
you find you missed out on some networking, or did you ever feel like you were losing an opportunity?
Do you know what? I honestly, no. I guess I didn't. I've had, and maybe my experience has been a little bit unique because I came into my job with a different background than anyone else I was working with. So I've always, at my company, still to this day, have a very unique background. I've had something that I think has always been valuable to the company. And there have been periods of times where the company really realized it and periods of times where the company maybe didn't know what the big deal was. But I always knew that it was really actually of critical importance to do a good job in the job I was doing. So I've always felt, comfortable with that. And yeah, even the periods of time where it was all men and they did have different backgrounds, I still felt very comfortable in my job just because I guess I've just been focused on getting the job done, for the most part. So
now, have you found, because you hire a lot of people, I imagine, freelancers, do you find there's a difference in the way that men and women negotiate?
Yes. I have historically seen men being more aggressive with negotiating. I think that actually is true for the most part, but somewhat recently that seems to be starting to shift.
Like in the last 3 months?
I don't know how many, but I don't know if it's the lean in stuff or in the zeitgeist or just it's being discussed more and women are more aware of it.
So something's happening.
I feel like something's happening. I feel like it used to be women just felt like they had to take whatever the offer was on the table or they would be viewed as problem children. And maybe they would have been. I don't know. But I do feel like that's starting to change. And you're a little bit more likely to have a woman go, oh, wait a minute, maybe I want to.
Wait a second. Well, that's good news. Yeah. And then if a woman tries to negotiate with you, do you look at her differently? It's usually HR doing the negotiating. Do I look at her differently? I guess I don't really, because the truth is, negotiate or not, salary is one thing. Either I want to hire the person or I don't. Yeah. So that's not going to be a deal breaker for you if they say, no. How about $200?
Oh, no. It may be we don't have the $200, so it could be a deal breaker. Right. But not because they asked, no.
Right. No. I think that may be the fear, is I'm going to lose a job completely if I ask for $200.
I don't know that would ever be true. I think if you're offered $100,000 and you say, "Oh, I really want $200,000," you may have gotten yourself out of the running. Possibly, I don't know. But no, I don't think most HR departments feel like negotiating is a bad thing.
Good.
So
we should all do it.
I don't think it hurts. You may have been given the best offer. The answer might be no. Right. Which doesn't necessarily mean anything. It doesn't mean you shouldn't have asked.
Right. So it doesn't hurt you to ask ever.
I don't think it hurts to ask. I do think at the end of the day, if you take an offer, then you just need to make sure you're happy with that offer and not complain about it.
Shut up about it.
That's right. Really, I honestly, as a production accountant too, I can't tell you the number of times somebody's come into my office about well, I usually get paid more than this, and I don't care. And now you want to go in later and say, well, I've done the following 10 things. I've been here X amount of time. I've grown and I've accomplished these things and I want to raise or a promotion. That's a different conversation.
But I've saved the company the amount of money.
Whatever it is, that is more than valid and something you should do. But don't take a job and then whine about the salary that you just took. Yeah.
Amen on that. Now, are you the breadwinner in your family?
Yeah.
Did you set out to be the breadwinner? Or
no.
Walk us through that journey. What expectation did you have, when you got married? How did you think it was going to look?
Well, I married for love.
Good on you.
And not for money. Michael, at the time, he was working as a writer, which, as a practical girl, I'm aware that's not necessarily a pot of gold.
It could go either way.
But it could go either way.
And you're young and starting out.
Yeah. And he was doing pretty well, actually. And he had this great contract he'd signed, and then there was this thing at Paramount, and somebody got moved out, and somebody else got moved in, and it all kind of, fell apart. And listen, if I made less money than he did, I would not feel like that was a problem. So why should it be?
Duh.
So why should it be a problem? Right. In the reverse, honestly, really.
We really mean it.
If you really mean it, that's right. Then it goes both ways.
Right. And then how has that affected, or I don't know if it's a direct correlation, but then you also have a daughter.
Yes.
How have you then negotiated the home?
So I will say this, it is very convenient to have a husband who can pick up, our child from school, drop her off in the morning. I volunteer at the school, but he volunteers a little more. And he does work. I mean, he's going to listen to this and be like, hey, wait a minute.
Hey, I work. Not saying he doesn't work. Not saying that at all. Like if you ask him what do you do, he's not going to say, I'm a house husband.
No. No, he will not reply that. He has done a lot of like digital content producing and stuff. That's been his main thing for a while, but it's mostly project based, so again, it'll be like, I'm on a project, I'm off a project for however long, and
it's not like salary day in,
day
out, or project based with more flexibility.
No. And now, and it sounds like such a cliche, I'm almost embarrassed to say it, but now he's looking at getting back into acting. But he really is genuinely good at it.
Oh, I believe you. No, it sounds like such a, great.
Yeah, it sounds like something I should really be rolling my eyes at.
Everyone in the Midwest is going,
oh, yeah. And I know how it sounds.
Really
but for real, I genuinely I'm on board the train. I'm like, yeah, you really should do that. Why aren't you doing that? You might as well. We're here. We're in LA. You're good at it. Give it a go.
No, he totally should.
Yeah.
You should meet this guy. In fact,
you will. You'll all know him.
Have you found... It sounds so like I have an agenda. I want to ask this question. Have you found, as a woman, that you've had to adjust your communication style at work in order to be effective?
Communication style with like superiors or people underneath me, like
with the men.
Oh, I don't do that. I don't know if I'm supposed to. I guess from your question, other people do.
Yeah, sometimes people do.
I think I missed the memo on that. Yeah. No, why would I do that?
Right. I love that answer. You'd be surprised. People have said they need to adjust their tone of voice or their gestures or their assertiveness.
Like to be less assertive?
Well, to be maybe less direct, a little bit softer while getting their point across.
I don't do that, no. I definitely don't do that.
That's laughable.
If I have a fault, which I probably do, it's being too blunt and direct. So I do have to sometimes try and dial that back and be a little careful, but I don't do that any differently with men than women. I mean,
it sounds like you just do that as a human.
That's just my business. That's exactly right. Like, I'm working with other people, and you need to take into account their perception and their background and their experience. That's exactly right. And the realization that, hey, guess what? I'm not always right.
What?
So sometimes I should listen to the other person, but I don't have any sort of like, I haven't noticed or haven't felt any pressure to
You're not checking
deal
your
differently.
Girl at the door.
No.
Are you successful?
Yes, I am successful.
Are you a badass?
I don't know. That one's a little, I don't know. Some people would probably call me that. I don't know if that would be in a positive way.
What do you think that means?
I don't know exactly. Badass, I'm not sure.
It looks like it's sitting with you kind of funny.
I don't know. It sounds like an odd term. I probably would not describe myself as a badass, but I'm sure you could find somebody who would.
What advice would you give to yourself, if you could, from when you were just starting out?
I would probably tell myself to push harder sooner.
What does that look like?
I think even though I am genuinely happy with how my career has gone, and I feel like I've gotten a lot of opportunities, some of them have been sort of just by luck, some of them by pushing hard. I can think back to like a long stretch where I was a production accountant when I was pretty bored with the job. Like, should I have started thinking about branching out from that sooner? Or should I, I remember there was an executive producer that I worked with, and I was his production accountant, and he would call me his line producer sometimes. And I was like, I'm not your line producer, because I wasn't.
But since you mentioned it.
But, maybe I should have hopped on that and been like, you know what, I want to do a show as a line producer.
Yeah.
Why
do you think you didn't?
I just have this focus on the job that I'm doing. I mean, I honestly do. It just was, I'm the production accountant. That's what I'm doing. So I'm going to do that job to the best of my ability. Like, I've just always sort of been very,
is that Midwestern work ethic?
It is such a Midwestern, that is true. I honestly have that Midwestern work ethic, top to bottom. It's just part of you. And yeah, I very rarely am like, well, what is the best thing for me, for my career in this situation? I'm more like, I'm doing a show, and I'm going to do the best job I can on this show. That's where my head was. And looking back, I might say, it's okay to take a step back and think about, well, what is the best next step for your career? Not necessarily just for, doing what you're doing exactly right now.
Till Friday.
Having said that, I think it all worked out fine. And I think at the end of the day, I think a focus on trying to do the best job that you can do in the job you're in is actually a fantastic career strategy, so I wouldn't necessarily change that.
What if you were advising other women just starting out? Would you tell them something different?
Just starting out, like, specifically in
entertainment.
In anything in entertainment?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would tell them the same thing. I would say focus really hard on learning everything you can at every opportunity. I think that's actually one really important thing about the entertainment business, because there's no training program. I mean, let me take that back. There are some training programs, but God knows what they're teaching anyone. I mean,
it doesn't mean that it's a training program that leads you to a specific path.
Yeah, no, you and this may be true of many industries. I don't know, because I've only ever worked in the entertainment industry, but I can tell you for sure, in the entertainment industry, the best way to learn is by getting a job and paying as much attention as you possibly can to everything that's going on around you. Especially when you're first starting out, because that's the only way you're going to learn anything. There's very few opportunities along the way where somebody will sit you down and say, here's how the following things work. You're going to have to figure it out, and you can, and you just need to pay attention.
Because it's very rare you're going to come out of film school and be the director.
Yeah, you're not going to be the director. And also, I know of one story where, somebody was an intern and they got their first PA job, and they had taken some class and like how to do, scheduling breakdowns or something like that, and walk into the coordinator's office, day one with their little notepad full of ideas, and immediately got fired, as they should have.
I got a resume once from someone who was very sweet, with just finishing up college and had done an internship, and I said, well, I can help you be a clerk in the accounting department on a show. Like, that's what I can offer you.
Exactly.
And she said, yeah, that would be great. Or if they need a director, I could do that too.
Either one's fine.
Oh, bless you.
Yeah.
That's not an opportunity I could provide.
You're gonna have
Good luck to you,
have to get to that one another way.
It's like, wow.
Yeah, you gotta put in. Most people, most of the time, have got to put in some actual work at the ground level.
It is kind of an apprentice sort of industry.
It is. Yeah. If you're not willing to do some grunt work and you don't have some major connections, then I wouldn't bother.
Unless you start out with lots of money and you're just going to finance your own.
Hey, listen,
project.
if you've got a gigantic pot of money,
more power to you.
Buy an island somewhere. Don't bother with
Don't throw it into this industry.
Yeah. What's the joke? Like, what's the quickest way to become a millionaire? Start out a billionaire and then get into the film industry.
Okay, how do you think, and I feel even weird asking this question because no one asks men these questions, but that is the point of this, right? How do you feel that having this career has affected you as a mother?
Well, I think that on balance, I am a better mother because of my career. I'm not going to say that I have never struggled with it, especially when I first went back to work after maternity leave.
Well, everyone cries on their way back to work.
Do you know what? It's hard. There's no point in glossing over it or pretending that it's not hard. It is hard. You know, aren't there some countries where you get a year or something? That would be
most
perfect.
other countries.
Everywhere else.
You get a good long time.
Right. That would be ideal. But on balance, I don't think I would want to be a stay-at-home mom long term. I think I would have a hard time with it, and I do think I'm a better mom having, you know, this other thing going on that is in no way, shape, or form a judgment on stay-at-home moms, because I genuinely, for one thing, appreciate everything they do. Like, I think of our school, it's the stay-at-home moms who are on the PTA, going to the meetings, doing, you know.
Thank God they're doing it.
Yeah, so.
And I'm a little jealous.
Exactly. It's like you want both things, right? If you could have everything, you would.
I still think someday I'm going to get to be a stay-at-home mom.
You might.
My kid's in high school. I'm not sure when that's going to happen.
Well, at your rate, you may have 3 more.
Oh, I don't think so. That's funny. I'm going to be a stay-at-home grandmother.
A stay-at-home grandmother. That would actually be a great gig.
Which I'm hoping does not happen in the next 3 years.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think if you could work 20 hours a week and have a very rewarding and successful career, that would be fantastic.
And get all the salary.
And get 100% of the salary and 50% of the work. I think most men would also like to take that deal. I don't think that's necessarily
deal.
just...
Sign us up.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to talk about?
No, this whole thing was your idea. I don't have any agenda whatsoever. You're the one with the questions. It's like I'm promoting my book.
You've been listening to The Other 50%. I'm Julie Harris Walker. I want to thank Andie Rice for sharing her story. And special thanks to Jonathan Lucas for editing, Jay Rowe, Danny Rosner, and Allison McQuaid for the music. Please find us on iTunes and subscribe and leave a review, and on our website, theother50%.com, all spelled out, for added features and bios of our guests. Thanks for listening. See you next time.